Cooley, and
Uh-huh.
Cooley is a person who said he will take more hands-on action with the police department, who has a national, a very, very controversial police department, both considered high-tech, high military, and also considered very corrupt. But so far, nothing has happened to the police that have been charged with all kinds of malfeasance. And
That's a
I'm
bad
now
word, isn't it?
well, and I'm also teaching this
Ugly
class
word,
at a
malfeasance.
community college, and there was a discussion yesterday about the bad cops, and we said, there are bad cops, but there's lots of good cops, and there's lots of people who go into the police force with the best of intentions, but there has been a problem of the silence, that people protect each other, the brotherhood of silence, so that people who have concerns are afraid to speak up for fear of being known as whistleblowers and being alienated from their fellow officers. So this has been a serious problem here for many, many years, and I would say maybe in many police departments. So in the election with this new district attorney, because of course it isn't just the police, it's the justice, it's the city council, it's the mayor, and it's also obviously the district attorney. So it's called the climate of fear, really.
Yeah,
Uh,
Dorothy, we need to take just a very short little 20-second break.
sure.
Sacramento's alternative choice is The Voice, 91.5 FM, 88.7 cable FM, worldwide via streaming media at sacramento.org.
Okay, back to Garcetti and Los Angeles and what's going on there.
Well, one of the wonderful things that happened is we
Because a lot of us
reelected.
from Sacramento, do come and visit LA, so we do want it to be a safe place as well as we want
Oh, for
Sacramento to be a good
sure,
place.
for absolutely sure, and I think that this election, which hasn't even been solved yet, we don't even know what's happening in the state of Washington. Our Senate may be split 50-50, which means the tie will be broken by the vice president, whoever that may be. It's really exciting times.
It really is.
It-
Boy, I felt like I was on a roller coaster last night.
Right, right. Well, and there's been so much discussion about the spoiler, Ralph Nader, as the person who may have elected George Bush. It's very controversial in the progressive community.
Yeah, what is some of the talk in the progressive community?
Well, some people felt that there was no way to get a toehold in the Democratic Party because it was just closed to people who didn't have a lot of money or who were willing to take money from corporations, and consequently there was a need for a third party, just as historically there was an anti-slavery party. I mean, after all, Lincoln represented a third party. So that there was a concern that you couldn't work from within the party, so you needed a third party to push the other two parties to a more populist position. That's one position. The other, of course, on the part of mostly Democrats, is that Ralph Nader was a spoiler, that he took votes away from Gore, and that if he really was concerned about people, then he certainly wouldn't have run a campaign, and he would have bowed out or given his votes to...
I hear a lot of that. Mm-hmm.
Yes, I'm sure. So the controversy goes on because there were, I've forgotten how many votes in Florida, where right now the election hangs. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens because...
Yeah, I heard about that Nader might have about 38,000 votes
Right.
or something, and that could be a major thing. So what do you feel about that, Dorothy? Do you think he was a spoiler or is a spoiler, or do you think we needed to have him at this point? What's
Well,
your
I
point of
think
view?
one of the things that happened is that I did hear Al Gore making more populist rhetoric after Nader began attracting anywhere from 10 to 15,000 people at rallies where people paid anywhere from $15 to $20. And the Democrats could see that this man was attracting a lot of attention. And a lot of that attention came from young people, and it also came from people who were part of the great 51% of the population that didn't vote in the last election, who were just enchanted. So he stirred up a lot of interest and energy. But I think what's interesting now is no matter who is president, if we have a Senate, and we will have a Senate that will either be 51-49 or it'll be 50-50, and the Congress is very close too. I mean, where the Democrats have not taken over, but it's split also.
In the House?
In the House of Representatives, it means that that people have to work together, or nothing is going to happen.
Well, if it's Bush, he says he knows how to work with people real well.
Well, let's hope so. And
You know.
he's going to certainly have an opportunity to see, because he's not going to have a majority anywhere. So he's going to have to learn or have to use those skills at getting people together to bring forth some of his platform. So I think it's very exciting. I think it's, and I've heard this from politicians this today, saying, we're really going to have to work together or nothing's going to get done. And that's
Hearing it from both sides?
Oh, yes, from both sides. Yeah, Gebhardt said it, and I've heard it also from Republicans. So I think it's exciting, and I think it just says how much the democracy is working. I did hear a quote from Rob Reiner, who is a producer and an actor, and a writer, and he was asked if he had written a satire about what happened in this election, would anybody believe him? He said, no, I'd never be able to sell it. They'd say it's absolute fiction. No one could believe that an election could go the way ours did last night.
Well, they'll be making a movie about it, and we probably won't believe it either.
No, but I think it's exciting. I mean, I think it's brought energy. And people have spoken, and people have said that we're centrists, and that's exactly the kinds of Democrats and Republicans we have elected. The election in Missouri is fascinating. That's where Mel Carnahan,
The one who died.
who was killed in a plane crash, won the election, beat Ashcroft, who was the Republican House
He
Representative.
lost to him, right? And he lost to a dead man.
Right, but his wife will be, that may be contested too. In fact, what's going to come out of this, no matter what happens in Florida, and I don't know if you know about the ballot irregularities, the problems with people who found that they couldn't punch their ballot because the names were in the wrong place, and they were...
I heard something was going on. I was busy working today, but I heard a little bit about something about it. So tell us a little bit more.
Well, I was listening to National Public Radio. I listened to Pacifica mostly, which is your KPFA station out of Berkeley, but this was a National Public Radio station, and people were calling in from Florida giving their own personal experiences. One woman said, I have a PhD, I'm a bright woman, and I could not figure out this ballot. And I asked the people at my polling place, and they said, you've ruined the ballot. There's nothing you can do. You can't have another one. And so she said she felt intimidated, and I know that older people did too. So it happened in Dade County. And in Dade
I needed
County,
some help with my little ballot. I asked the lady to help me. Felt like it was a little hard, that first one, to punch in, so I didn't know if I was punching in at the right place.
well, you would hope that the people at the polls could help you.
Yeah, they did. They were very nice. They came running
were lucky,
over.
But Dade County has a history of irregularities, and they recalled a mayor because of some irregularities in Dade County voting. So whether we're going to pay attention to this, there's some people who were suing and saying that the election should be held again in that county because so many people feel disenfranchised. They ended up voting for Buchanan when they wanted to vote for Gore. It's a heavily Democratic area. So I don't know what's going to happen from it. Nobody does. But what's going to happen because of this election is there's going to be one challenge after another.
Yeah, I was hearing some of the people on the right talking on radio today, who were really putting Gore down right now for Clinton sending investigators down into Florida, and they're calling him a baby and complaining that he is trying to make something out of nothing. What do you think about that? They were pretty harsh.
Well, actually, George Bush has sent down a James, I forgot his name, the fellow from Texas, who was in his father's administration, and also Warren Christopher was going for the Democrats. So there are...
They said there was something like 150 people going down.
No, these are the two... These two... Was this James
Anyway,
something?
that's what I heard on
Oh, no, I haven't heard that.
public radio
Actually,
today.
there is a commission in Florida
Oh, yeah,
that
lawyers.
operates if there's some kind of close race, of course, which this is, so it automatically goes into recount. And Jeb Bush who was the governor and the brother of the
George.
of our George W. He took himself off the panel and said, "Go ahead, and I'll take myself off, and then these other two men will go ahead and be two of the decision makers with the other three." So there's only 5 people who are going to be making decisions and who are supposed to be listening to people's complaints. And so we have no idea what's going to happen.
Oh, I hope it doesn't get to be a big mess.
Well, I think it is, and I think out of the big mess can come more clarity and something really positive. Because the mess is that we had 49% of our people vote in the last election. This time people were more
What do we have,
fired
76%? Was it?
Pardon?
Was it 76% this year?
This time.
Yeah, that's really something.
Much better, much better. But then again, we had a lot of passion from Nader. We had passion for some people from Buchanan and all that was going on in the Reform Party. And we had the candidates, George Bush, who has a certain concern and vendetta about the Clinton-Gore administration taking away his father's second presidency run, or rather term. So there's a lot of passion on a lot of people's parts. So that part is good, and it certainly has energized.
Yeah, one of the lines I use here on this show is, we actually need some messes to clean up to, to feel good about ourselves. 'Cause what would life be if it was all just okay, boring?
Right. It's James Baker. I couldn't think of his name. That's who the Republican is who's going to Florida.
And so were they going to be?
Well, they will be like the senior observers.
Oh, observers.
And they will be conferring. And they're people that both parties respect. Warren Christopher, of course, from the Christopher Commission here, and former Secretary of State. So I think it's exciting, and I think that it looks like a mess. Europe is the response from Europe is just wonderment and perplexement and concern too, because there's some people in Europe who are concerned about Bush's presidency because he is not a person who has had much international experience.
Right.
And
listen, we got to take a quick break.
Oh,
Could you hold
okay.
on to that idea? It'll be about a little 3-minute thing.
Okay.
Okay.
Community Radio for Sacramento, The Voice.
Hey Sacramento, what's up? This is 91.5 The Beat. This is Roland B.
This is DJ 2 Sports. This is John G. Cooking Mouse. Heater tracks in the 916. If you ain't knocked close, y'all know it's not.
Hello, Dorothy?
Yes.
Hi, we're still off the air.
Yeah.
Yeah, things are really great.
So listen.
I really appreciate all you're saying.
If there's anything you want me to say or do that...
No, just any thing you want to give your opinion on.
Is your audience a lot of young people?
Who knows?
Hello,
Do not know.
Hello, ladies, and everybody else out there in Sacramento land. Hey, this is Dave Carr for Radio DX. I can never decide on what am I going to be playing on this show. Well, check it out every Mondays from 6 to 8 p.m. live, and replay Tuesday mornings from 6 to 8 a.m. and find out. Only on the Voice of Sacramento, 91.5 FM and Cable FM, 88.7.
Why is it we never hear about the good things kids do?
Stories. 2 teenagers are accused of drug-related...
The newspaper reports show that 65% of adults have a negative opinion of teenagers.
A shootout downtown leaves 4 teenagers dead today.
It's time for teenagers to get noticed for doing something right. Get involved in crime prevention in your community. Tutor, mentor, volunteer, and let's start proving everybody wrong by doing something right. Call 1-800-722-TEENS.
A public service message brought to you from the Crime Prevention Coalition of America, the U.S. Department of Justice, and the Ad Council.
Do you have dreams?
Do you have goals?
Everyone does.
No matter what race or color they are.
Talk to each other.
Listen to each other.
Sure, we're all different.
But we're also all the same.
Understand the similarities.
Respect the differences.
Help end prejudice in your lifetime. Call 1-800-934-3430 or log on to www.whitehouse.gov. Together, we can build one America in the 21st century. Brought to you by the President's Initiative on Race, the Leadership Conference Education Fund, and the Ad Council.
Hey, is that Freedom Rock I'm hearing?
No, man.
Well, turn it up anyway.
Hey, it sounds like that community radio station.
Sacramento's Community Radio, The Voice. Yeah, that's the community radio station where anyone can do their own radio show.
No way.
Just call Access Sacramento at 456-8600. They have training classes to teach you all about community radio broadcasting.
Wow, man. Sounds really cool.
Yeah, I'm headed down there right now for my radio training class.
No way, I'm coming too.
That's right. Now you can take advantage of this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to grab hold of that microphone and make your radio dreams come true. Access Sacramento radio training classes are offered by appointment and cost $15. And if you act now, you get the super psychedelic sounds of the 70s music bed absolutely free. The number to call is 456-8600. Answering machines are standing by. This is The Voice.
The Voice is KYDS 91.5 FM, Sacramento.
Okay, we're back on Action Callers, and I'm Dr. Reva Camiel, and this is Action Callers, and our guest today is Dorothy Nasatir, social activist, teacher, wonderful friend, politically interested in everything, a true intellectual. And so back we are with Dorothy. Can you hear us, Dorothy?
I sure can.
Oh,
Can you
good.
hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Good.
Can you guys out there hear her? Okay. So you were kind of in the middle of a sentence. If you're like me, you don't remember where you left off. But,
well, then we had a break, and probably nobody else remembers either. So.
But did you get caught in the middle of a sentence that you must complete?
No.
Are you sure? Because
No.
there's time.
You know, this election is so electrifying and so all-engaging that one could go hours and hours, and it has so many facets that are interesting that it doesn't matter. I don't hold on to any with great tugging.
Good. So let's say, here's a question for you. What is your opinion on why Gore didn't do better, considering he had more experience and he comes across more articulate than Bush? What do you think, besides him kind of being wooden?
Well, I think that in the last debate, Bush and Gore were in agreement 32 times. And when you have two candidates that are that close in opinions, first, you don't have a great deal of difference in the party. You do have differences, but not a great deal. So people start looking at style. And, of course, Bush was kind of an easygoing, nice guy, and Gore kept changing his image. So you had one kind of person one day, different hairdo and a different suit and a different image, and then the next day he was somebody else.
Was it more than clothes?
Clothes and message, he just kept changing. And it was like follow the bouncing ball, and I think it was confusing for people, for one thing. And also his first appearance on the debate was he was on the attack, and a lot of people did not like that. And because they're saying, you know, Lincoln could have never been elected because of television in the year 199 or 2000, but we are a media generation, and so how you look and how you come across, as we know is with Nixon and Jack Kennedy won that on charm. Well, Gore didn't have that charm, and consequently he also didn't have the message that was very different than George Bush. So that it was his to lose. Also, there was a lot of concern that he didn't reach out to. Clinton was the consummate builder of community. He could go to one community and make them all feel like they were the most important, and then 15 minutes later he'd be in a totally different community. You can go to the Jews one day and the Muslims the next day.
You're a little bit like that, aren't you, Dorothy?
Pardon?
You're a little bit like that too, aren't you?
Well,
I think I am too.
Clear, but
but you
I'm
know,
not a politician. But Gore didn't do that, and
maybe he truly.
Reach out.
Yeah.
He didn't stress things like women's right to choose, which was terribly important. I mean, there are differences between Republicans and Democrats, and he didn't stress those. Mm-hmm. Consequently, he didn't seem to have a message.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And how do you think the House and the Senate possibly, and the presidency being possibly, if Bush wins, being Republican, and how are they going to... Well, we talked a little bit about that maybe Bush would be able to be a peacemaker and bring people together. Do you think Gore will be able to do that if he wins?
Well, you know, it doesn't matter who wins, because whoever does is going to have to do that, because the House and the Senate are split.
Well, maybe. Do you think Gore can do that?
I think he can, and I think that Bush is... both of them are going to have to, or they will have no legislative agenda whatsoever. One of the bugaboos that came up about Nader was that if we didn't elect Gore, we know that we may be losing 2 to 4 Supreme Court justices.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, the president nominates the Supreme Court justice, but they have to be approved by the Congress and the Senate. Now, of course, if you have, as we have had, you put up somebody, let's say the president nominates somebody, but the Congress is either very progressive or moderate or conservative and doesn't go along with that particular person, they're not going to vote for them.
Mm-hmm.
So this is another situation where it's not just the president, it is the Congress and the Senate.
Yeah. Well, they kind of reminded me of the Thomas...
yes, Thomas and Scalia.
Yeah. What was going on at that time? Was that a mixed... because it seemed to take a long time to finally get him elected.
Clarence Thomas?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know that it did. I think there was a lot of controversy because he had he was a very controversial figure. There were people who wanted him in very much. There were those who felt that he wasn't Supreme Court material, and so there was a lot of controversy. But the other thing is that George Bush said that his favorite justices are Scalia and Thomas, who are people who are not pro-choice and who have very conservative voting records, and consequently the fear is there'll be more Scalias and Thomases if George Bush is elected. But again, they have to get through the Congress too. I mean, the appointment has to get through the Congress. So that's another one of the wonderful parts of our Constitution is we have these checks and balances.
Yeah, so we're on the, that were voted in and those that didn't. And what did you think about some of those? I know that some of those things are close to your heart.
Well, 38, which is the one on vouchers, was very interesting because if you turned on television, you just couldn't avoid a yes on 38 or a no on 38.
That was on school vouchers?
School vouchers, and of course what was interesting about it is that it failed 70 to 30%, which said a lot of people were not swayed by all of the advertising.
Yeah, I found that really interesting.
Yes.
Yeah, people are waking up, aren't they?
Not only in California, but Michigan, I think, also had it on its ballot, and I think there were a few other states too. Not to say that we don't have to improve our public schools, but the question is, do we improve our public schools by giving people money so they can go to private schools and pulling the money out of public schools?
And not only that, the $4,000 doesn't get you very far in a private school these days.
Plus that you don't have, they have the option of accepting you or not.
Mm-hmm,
and so if you're a person with a disability or they just don't like your looks, plus that the schools are not in no way certificated or licensed, which means anybody could be teaching anything.
Yeah.
And I think we all got that, and I think that was really encouraging because it was getting down to scare tactics like crime on the streets, and you probably know the yes on 38.
Well, Dorothy, I was thinking back some 24, 25 years ago when I was living down in L.A., vouchers was brought up at that time, and I remember we were fighting against them at that time, and there wasn't as much awareness, I don't think, by people in the communities about the difficulty of them. Seems. Do you remember anything about that?
Oh, yes, I do.
What's your memory of that?
Well, there always has been a desire to improve schools in poor communities by the community who have little clout because they often can't get to meetings and they care about their kids, and so they're desperate to find ways of improving their schools, more books, better playgrounds, a lower pupil-teacher ratio, so that vouchers or almost anything that looks like a change or reform looks enticing.
Mm-hmm.
But it was soundly defeated, and I think it's just a credit to the California public to understand that it wasn't going to be universally good.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, we always like something and think it's universally good when it's something we like, don't we?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. What are some of the other propositions that were close to your heart?
Well, another one that was absolutely outrageous and it will be a bellwether for the rest of the country. I think it was 36, and it's what do we do with people who use drugs?
Oh, yeah.
And that I think had almost the same ratio as the voucher amendment did, 70 to 30, but it was very high, saying we want to treat and prevent the use of drugs rather than we want to throw people in jail. And, of course, that flies in the face of 3 strikes and a whole punitive attitude about people with who use drugs or who have been using drugs or who have a drug problem.
Do you think the 60s baby boomers who have experimented with drugs and were probably much more aware or are not as concerned about what people who use drugs do or something like that?
I think that's certainly part of it. I think the other part of it is we call it the drug war. We've put millions of dollars into putting people in jail and eradicating marijuana fields in Colombia, and the drug problem has only escalated. And so, obviously, whatever we call this war on drugs isn't working.
Oh, by the way, excuse me, I don't want to. I was reading in the paper today that Mendocino passed a law that people could grow their own marijuana.
That's right.
Uh-huh.
It'll be interesting because I'm sure it's going to be challenged in the California court and then in the Supreme Court, again, as to who has jurisdiction. But this is another vote that I think there was a vote in Arizona that was very similar a few years ago when we passed the other law that people could use marijuana for medical use. And there was a big controversy about that. So I think California is very exciting. I mean, people look to this state for innovation and leadership.
Oh, you know, I heard on one of those other stations today that they were eager. They thought that California probably could come around pretty soon and be like the rest of the nation.
Oh, well, you know, we have... what I love about California is we have pockets of everything. We have the progressives of the Bay Area, and we have the conservatives of San Diego County and Imperial County and Northern California, except for the area where the pot is growing, but more northeastern and the very north-central part of the state. One of the people that was impressive to me in this election was Tom Campbell, because he advocated the use of treatment for people with drug problems. He also advocated the release of the boycott against Iraq, saying it was killing many children. He was for campaign finance reform, and he was a Republican who had a lot of Republicans quite unhappy with him. And, of course, he didn't win. He couldn't get very much money from the Republicans, and he had a hard time raising enough money to get on
his
television.
word didn't get no. Yeah, I never heard too much about him.
Well,
until I talked to you the other day.
And that's a very good point, Reva, because how do you get heard? You get on television. You can't. It used to be mailers and people went door to door, and some of that helps. But now it's really how much exposure you have on the media, and that's very expensive. That's why a lot of politicians are very unhappy, because they spend most of their lives fundraising and not really dealing with legislation and helping their community.
Okay, what's another one of the propositions?
Well, have you got them in front of you?
I do have them in front of me here. There's one here that is about the transportation. I don't know if you have much to say about that one. It was something about getting consultants or bringing in other companies and not just leaving it up to Caltrans to build all the roads. If you don't have anything to say about it, I might ask Steve Baylog, our radio engineer, who during the daytime has something to do with Caltrans, and he might have something to say for that one. You want to do that, Steve?
Oh, Reva, I thought I said I wasn't going to do this.
No, you said maybe. We'll see later. You don't have to, you know.
I'll make a couple comments.
Yeah, make one that doesn't get you fired. I don't want to lose you as a neighbor.
Well, the election's over, so I'm not subject to the Hatch Act anymore. First off, it's not just Caltrans. I believe it's all public engineering projects, and that involves schools and others projects. They say that one of the effects now is going to be delay of projects while we take a year or 2 years or whatever to make the rules about how to implement this, because I believe it's a constitutional amendment. So instead of speeding things up, we're afraid it may slow things down. As a public employed engineer, I can tell you for the last 30 years have been working with consultants that were employed by our agency and other agencies. So I didn't see a whole lot of need for this particular measure. We have been hiring private engineers my entire career. I believe my agency currently has something like 1,200 person years of private engineers under contract.
How come that nothing was said about that during the election?
Well, it's back to the issue you talked about before, is money. The consulting engineers put up a lot of money to get this measure on the ballot and do ads, and the other side didn't have as much money and maybe didn't take this as seriously as they should have. None of us really know what the real impact is going to be.
Yeah, we should have done something about that on this program. And, this is community radio, and we could have had you on it, and it wouldn't cost the state anything.
Well, I can't say that I was active in any campaigns on it either. I was more interested in the presidential election and the mayor's race here and some of the other items, school vouchers.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, Dorothy, here in Sacramento, we elected a woman, our second woman mayor. And we also, and she was a guest here on the program one evening, and we also had her opponent, and they were two very good people. And the more moneyed people, I believe, did not win. And she was a community activist. In many ways, had helped to stop growth in the area near the airport. But there was a lot of smear stuff that went on around it too. But we got to take one of those really quick ones. We'll be right back.
Your radio station is The Voice, 91.5 FM, cable FM 88.7, and worldwide via streaming media at www.sacramento.org.
Okay, Dorothy, you there?
Yes.
Very good. Let's see, we got Proposition 37. What one was that now? The initiative, constitutional amendment. Does that one sound familiar to you?
Oh, yes. That's very confusing because it has to do with Proposition 205 that we passed before. And this one is very confusing. And the question is, having passed, as it did, does it mean that it will negate 205? I wanted to get back to
what was
205?
205?
Yeah, 205 that we passed a couple of years ago.
Yeah, what was that one to do?
It has to do with, well, I have to get this. I'm confused now myself. But I wanted to get back to women because one of the women that the nation was watching was Hillary.
Yeah.
And it was certainly nip and tuck for a long time. And we had a congressman who led the impeachment proceedings. And the question was, as he ran for Congress again, was that experience going to hurt him or help him? And of course, in his particular case, James Rogan, his name is, he lost. And he attributes it to those people who did not approve of the impeachment trial, which was something else, too, that people criticized Gore about. And then he could say that, you see, the American public care more about how you govern, not your private life. And, of course, that was another question people had, that Gore did not want Clinton out on the campaign trail at all, and he kept him bottled up during this whole thing. And since his Clinton's approval rating was up 65%, the question was, he could have gone out as it's questionable, but he could have gone out as
a little bit like Bush didn't have his father out on the trails with him either. You know.
He did, and he
did
had
he?
his mother too.
Oh,
and he had his
I only
brother.
saw her once on TV.
Yes. Oh, he had everybody out.
Oh,
and
okay.
but he also had Colin Powell, and he had other people that were his spokespeople too.
Mm-hmm.
But it was bottling Clinton, and there was diverse opinion as to what to do. But Hillary's win was very controversial because when she was at first running, there was such an anti-Hillary movement in New York that she was a carpetbagger, that she was going to only use as a stepping stone to presidency. It was interesting. She won by a fairly large margin for New York. So it'll be interesting.
Why do you think people voted for her?
I think what she said is, her opinion was, it was the message of education and Social Security, and that she kept those messages high.
Is that what you think?
Her opponent accused her of being too friendly to Muslims, and he said, she had hugged Mrs. Arafat, if you remember. That was something that was an absolute no-no, supposedly to the Jewish community. But it turns out that her opponent had done the same thing, had been seen shaking hands with Arafat, or it had been in the same place. So he seemed a bit of a hypocrite. So she won partly because he just wasn't a strong campaigner. But she also was so controversial. We had another woman here named Jane Harman who she ran for governor. And she gave up her seat in the Congress, and then she ran again, and she barely won. And I think
she won?
And you must have had this too, is that at 10 o'clock, the numbers were one thing, and then at midnight, the people who were losing by 10 or 12% were winning. Did you have that too?
I don't know. I mean, there seemed to be things going up and down all the time, so it seemed to go up and down a lot. What about this Measure O? Did you have O? That was here, Dorothy. You might be interested here in Sacramento. Some of the big developers were wanting to make a senior, nice place for people to live, and out in kind of the boonies of Sacramento, and it was beyond the where the supervisors had agreed that we could go out to, and they were kind of pushing to the edges, and new highways and roads were going to need to be built, and one thing and another. And lo and behold, the Sacramentans voted against them being able to build out there. Sounded like it might be a fun place to live, but you wanted to say something? Steve has something to say.
Yeah, I'll comment on Measure O. It was put on the ballot by a particular developer, C.C. Meyer, who, Dorothy, you might recall the name. It's his company that rebuilt the Santa Monica Freeway after the earthquake down there. Right. Anyway, he speculated on a lot of property beyond their urban service boundary. And interestingly, this is a case where money didn't take the vote, because all the money was on the side of that proposition, and it didn't come close to carrying in Sacramento. So, interesting turn of events up here.
You really highlight something very important, Steve, and that is money is money, but a vote is a vote, which says to all of us all of the people who didn't vote, we look at what's going going on in Florida right now and know how important every vote is. Now, I personally was not a Gore fan, but I knew how important it was to vote for the propositions, for my congressperson, for my state senator, and that's the thing that's important, is that if you don't say anything, then you really have you have very little legs to stand on to complain, because your vote is so important. And money can't buy that. It can buy the advertising space, but it can't buy your vote.
Yeah.
Hello there.
Yeah. I thought you were kind of talking there to Steve for a minute, and I just kind of zoned out for a second. And that reminds me, our next show that's coming on right after is going to be Dr. Eric Clopton talking about attention deficit disorder. And I think I have a little of that, and so I do space out occasionally. And he's going to talk about adult attention deficit disorder at 7 o'clock. So I hope some of you will be listening in. And is there anything that you'd like to kind of say to, we're getting towards the end of our time.
I just want to compliment you on your program, because I think that it is in the best, it's the best evidence of good citizenship. You're saying to people, you can get involved, you can take action, and it's not only good for you, it's good for all of us. Even if we're in disagreement, it's taking action about something that you feel passionate. It's wonderful.
Well, thanks, Dorothy. You were kind of a inspiration to me to even get a show started up here. I know you were on you were on the board down there at public radio down in the valley. What is that station?
No, I was on the national board of Pacifica Radio, which is 5 stations and 85 affiliates across the United States. But we do have a local station here, KPFK. And you have KPFA in Berkeley.
Sometimes I can get that station, and other times I can't.
Right. I think it's 93.5. I'm not sure.
So you're being involved in that station, and some of the stories I heard about you, in terms of what goes on there and the politics of radio, really inspired me. And I know you were on many of the programs there and sit in for people, and it's just. It's kind of fun. We've been living about, 500 miles apart, but our careers kind of keep following each other.
That's true.
We were both parent educators working for LA City schools and fighting racism and the women's movement. And what were some of the other things that we wanted to make right in the world? I know you did a lot with the United Nations. You were president, 6 years of the Valley United Nations?
The United Nations Association. Yeah. Well, and I don't do it except that it makes me feel good. I mean, I just feel that if something really passionately, I've got to do it. And I change organizations because for a while it works, and for then later I want to put my energies. There's too much to do out there, and I have to sort of focus on what's the most important thing. But this election, to me, I think what you said before is so true, Reva. We are going to have chaos, but out of this chaos is going to come a new birth of the way our democracy is going to progress, and I think that's exciting, and it's scary.
Yeah, it's scary, and as you say, exciting, and it's good to have friends and people you can talk about with it, and people that you can call and find out what's going on. So I encourage everybody who's out there hearing us is to find people that have a point of view similar to yours. And I also want to mention that there's some people who have some interest that I have. There's going to be the Middle East Peace Project is having something called It's Never Too Late for Peace. And I know you'd like to thank them too, Dorothy, for groups doing that. And it's been great having you on the show, and I really appreciate all that you do in the world and the kids that you've raised, and she has wonderful children. They're some of my best friends, so thank you very much, Dorothy.
Well, the pleasure is mine. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity.